And so what we have is the product of sin has produced all of these illnesses and sicknesses. So one, don't think just because you're saved. I like what many theologians used to challenge. The best thing that used to come out of this church and most churches, that folks stop running around talking about they're Christians, but they realize they're saved sinners. That means that I still have the possibility. Somebody said, Pastor, I disagree with that. Well, you're not Jesus. Do you know that Jesus came and the devil tried to separate Jesus from his Father? Everybody look at me and say temptation. And honey, you are always going temptation to get angry, temptation to be about yourself, temptation to hate others, temptation to not love others, temptation to forget other folk. And you and I have to be very careful. So any, and every last one of us fall to temptation. And if you don't correct the temptation and you keep yielding to the temptation, see, some of y'all thinking about the time we think about sin. There it is again. Well, let me tell you what killed that young man. It was sin. What made that lady walk into the Mississippi River? It was sin. What caused that? And it ultimately is a paralysis. Paralysis is when you are not able to function the way you want to function. This text says that the critical goal and message that we need today to understand is that number one, we all sin. And number two, we all need help to deal with our temptations. I don't care how you are, who you are, you can't make it in this world by yourself. Because I'm telling you, if you're an island to yourself, sooner or later, you're going to want to throw in the towel, you're going to want to quit, or you just not going to care. That's called apathy. Everybody say apathy. Apathy is a critical disease because apathy will make you, one, either not care and give up. Two, it'll make you harm yourself, or it'll make you harm others. Now, harming others don't necessarily mean taking a Uzi and going into McDonald's or to some government agency, but you can harm others. That beautiful baby is a good illustration that when you are so hung up and frustrated as a mother that you don't take care of a child like you ought to take care of a child. And many of you don't understand is that many times our children are grown. And you know when they get grown, they think they don't need advice, but they still need money. I don't catch that. Y'all ain't gonna talk to me. Yeah. I don't understand. They don't need to be told what to do until they get in trouble. I wish I had some parents in here that knew what I was talking about. And so the truth of the matter is that what we see in this text is a paralyzed man. Reverend Snoddy talked about being lame don't have to be lame in the feet. You can be lame in the head. Y'all ain't gonna talk to me. Being paralyzed don't necessarily mean, the Bible says that he was suffering from a disease called the palsy. And I don't want to try to take time to exegete and to really deal with the palsy, but what I want to teach and want to remind and what I want to encourage us is that I believe this text illustrates, for the sake of this sermon, all of us, but Peverny Lawson particularly, young people ages 22 to 35. Theological scrutiny allows us to suggest maybe, possibly, that this is a young man, and what's interesting is that there are 4 people who decide that church is going on and ain't nobody attending to the man that's outside the church. They're worshiping. I mean, they're having a glorious time. They're having a T.D. Jakes mega fest. I mean, it's so full, the Bible says can't nobody get in the front door. And listen, the problem is, how is it that everybody's in church shouting, And somebody's sitting outside the church that needs your help, that needs help. I believe the miracle is not, I think the text will reveal that the miracle is not what's going on in the church, but what happened outside the church. Are y'all listening to me? This sermon is not complicated. It does not require any hermeneutical insight. It does not require any theological interpretation. You don't have to know nothing about the Bible, but to see that evidently, I don't know whether they brought him 20 miles away or 10 miles away, but surely somebody saw this man, and the Bible says he was a paralytic. I've come today to tell y'all that we have some paralytics in our family. You don't have to leave the church. You don't have to find a vagabond. You don't have to find nobody else. But you can find right now that there are paralytics in our family, paralyzed in the mind, young men who are walking up and down the street. And we know nephews that we've written off. We know nieces that we've written off because they're on drugs. Or if they're not on drugs, they're on drugs. What's drugs? They're on anything they can get. And they can't find a job. They can't find help, and they are paralyzed. And if it hadn't been for grace, you and I would be paralytics also. All of us have gone through things and experiences that defeat us, that make us want to throw in the towel. I mean, since I've been a pastor here at Elm Grove, there have been days I wanted to say to my God, I don't want to preach no more. I don't want to pastor no more. But if it had not been for somebody to pick me up emotionally, somebody to pick me up spiritually, for somebody to pick me up physically, and somebody to grab my hand literally, I would not be here. Is there anybody here other than the pastor? Text is not about a paralyzed sick man. Text is also about a paralyzed person emotionally. How many of you have ever wanted to quit Elm Grove because of what somebody said to you? Or how many of you have ever wanted to leave the church because of boozy, nappy-head, holy, sanctified Christians who won't even speak to you?